All right. No, it is not another food. I wish, though. Anyways, welcome to Let's Talk Cinema, episode 10. Yeah, we're here talking about movies. We're already now at episode 10 for Let's Talk Cinema. Kind of seems crazy that we're already 10 episodes in. But, yeah, anyways, so joined by Greg again. And some big news this week. Probably the biggest news by far, I would say, is the Aladdin trailer that dropped on Grammys night a couple nights ago. So we will start off by talking about that. But first, of course, as we always do, we'll go over the box office report, which was actually pretty eventful this weekend, as we had three big movies opening, and four big movies opening, and they all kind of took a place in the top 6 here this week. So let's get on to the box office then first, and we'll talk about it. So here are the top 6 performers from this weekend's box office, and it is as follows. Of course, provided by Box Office Mojo, as usual. So, number 1 was the Lego Movie 2, the second part. Not a big surprise here at all. They get, what may be a surprise though, is they get 34 million opening weekend. Number 2 is What Men Want, starring, how do you pronounce her name? No, it's Tahari P. Henson or something like that, right? But is Tiffany Haddish in it? And what's the guy's name, too? I always forget his name, but he's so recognizable. Anyways, so What Men Want comes in number 2. They make 18 million. Number 3 is Liam Neeson's Cold Pursuit. It comes in at 11 million. Number 4, The Upside. It comes in at 7,082,000. Number 5 is Glass, 6,279,000. And number 6 is the new horror film that opened this week, The Prodigy, and they get 5,853,000. So, yeah, like I said, 4 new names in there in the top 6. Of course, Aquaman, I think this is the first weekend where they fell out of the top 6, which was to be expected, to be honest, with these new ones opening. I believe it only took in about 3 million this week. So, anyways, those are the top 6 performers then from this week's box office. And, you know, again, I mean, kind of eventful, but there were a couple surprises, or at least Box Office Mojo, I believe. So, they say at the top of the box office, Warner Brothers, the Lego Movie 2 fell well short of the anticipated 50 to 55 million that the studio was anticipating. The performance is also well below the $69 million of the first film that opened in February 2014, as well as below the $53 million opening for the Lego Batman movie in February 2017. And Box Office Mojo says perhaps franchise fatigue has seems to have settled in rather quickly with the Lego movie. And so, you know, just quickly here, I think I kind of agree with this one. Again, it is just the first weekend, so we'll have to see how the movie plays out going forward. But, you know, they come out with Lego Batman, they come out with Lego Ninjago, both in 2017, kind of in a few months away from each other. Do you kind of agree with that? Maybe there is some fatigue. Maybe there's been a little too many movies in a row here for the whole Lego niche that they're playing to. And I was surprised, too, because I didn't realize that the first Lego movie came out in 2014. So it's been 5 years, but then you go back to, like, Lego Batman, Lego Ninjago. Like I said, both released, I think it was within 8 months of each other in 2017. And it's like, I don't know, maybe they got the first one, obviously had a lot of success. And so maybe they've just been a little bit too quick to the punch here, if you will, releasing Lego Movie 2. And we'll see, but they already do have plans for, like, you know, Lego Batman 2 and other kind of spin-off things, so we'll have to see if they kind of go forward with that, given this disappointing opening weekend. So, again, though, we'll have to see how the movie goes eventually. Internationally, they did pretty well this weekend, though, too. It's worth mentioning. Okay, so Paramount's What Women Want was number two, and they came basically smack dab in the middle of studios' expectations. But the film entered the week with relatively weak reviews. They got a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 51 on Metacritic, and audience seemed to have agreed based on a 49% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a very weak 3.6 out of 10 on IMDb. So 36% if you transfer that. But that said, the film's cinema score, so these were the audiences who saw the movie, came out of it, they gave it an A-. So, and that also matched Night School's cinema score on the opening weekend. So, again, I mean, this wasn't a movie that we expected to be in 100% of Rotten Tomatoes, of course. So it's kind of, performing as advertised, obviously kind of a certain market that they're playing to. And it looks like they kind of got that because, I mean, to be fair, they made 17 million or 18 million this weekend, which is still pretty high for, a comedy like this. And yes, and we see a little bit of a similarity there to Night School. So, and they did really well, really, kind of over the expectations for that. So, yeah. Then we got Summit's Cold Pursuit, of course, the new Liam Neeson one, slightly exceeded expectations this weekend, and it looks to be playing very similar to Liam Neeson's The Commuter that was released last January. They had a 13.7 million opening. Cold Pursuit is 10 million this weekend, and that Commuter went on to gross over 36 million. So probably along the lines of that one as well, and the film received a B- cinema score from audiences. And then, just like I mentioned, rounding up the top five is Glass, whose domestic cume now totals 98.4 million. The film also added 6.6 million internationally this weekend for an international total of 123 million, now pushing its global total to over 221 million. So that's going to be one to watch too, Glass. I think a lot of people had pretty high expectations for this one. Some people thought it might get close to a 500 mil, given a lot of attention, a lot of buzz for this movie, but it doesn't look like that. But we'll have to see how that one does going forward. Next weekend's release, we have Happy Death Day 2, You. So their sequel to the first one came out in 2017. And then Isn't It Romantic? The Rebel Wilson comedy coming out. Rebel Wilson from Pitch Perfect. And then also Alita Battle Angel. That one's going to be interesting because there's a lot of buzz around that one. They're advertising the shit out of it, or at least that I've seen. So I have to see how that one does at the box office. Are you looking forward to any of those three movies so far? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I mean it's a Groundhog Day concept type of thing, right? And it's been done before. But I think a lot of people liked it, given that. So yeah, I mean for me, I kind of agree. I'm not a fan of Rebel Wilson, and yeah, I haven't seen the first Happy Death Day. Alita Battle Angel, it's like I don't know, it looks kind of cool, and like I said, the advertising has looked kind of cool for it, but. Yeah, and I think you're right about, changing the opening dates. I think that's going to be big for them, though, because I think they're going to make a significantly more money this weekend than they would have in December. So that's going to be smart. So we'll have to see how that does, and then of course we'll still have Lego Movie competing there. So yeah, I mean, Alita Battle, it's tough to predict because I think some people are looking forward to it. But anyways. So that just about does for the box office report then for this weekend. Like I said, three kind of big ones coming out next week, and then we have there's one other kind of bigger movie coming out next weekend. Oh, I'm forgetting it now. Damn. But anyways, I think there's a couple other big February releases coming out still in the next couple weeks, so I'll have to stay tuned for that one. All right, so first then, let's go then into our news topics for this episode, and we have a couple here. So the first topic, of course, which is obviously in the thumbnail, the focus of this episode, is that there is a new trailer, or a teaser, if you will, released for Disney's Aladdin movie. And the biggest part of this whole trailer is that it showed, or it gave us our first look at Will Smith as the Genie. And of course, everyone on the internet talking about it right now. Even some people who probably don't know really what the details of everything are, and people who probably haven't even seen the trailer. But so it was about a 58-second trailer that was released on Grammy night as a TV spot, which it still behooves me why they wouldn't have put it on Super Bowl night. I don't know. That just doesn't make sense to me. But anyways, so you saw the trailer for Aladdin, obviously with a lot of Genie focus. But what did you think of the trailer for this one? I think, yeah, it was in December. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Mm. Yep. Yeah, and yeah, good point, right? And that is what I was gonna say is the trailer to me. I mean, I liked what they showed, but and again, it is like kind of a teaser because I don't think you'd call it a full trailer, a 58-second thing. I don't know if you'd call that a full trailer, but to me, it really just looked like they either weren't prepared to release another teaser and they kind of just put together what they could, or they just didn't really care and they just kind of put this out knowing that it wasn't much. And to me, that's where the CGI came in. That's like a bunch of the clips in this trailer are literally like 2-second stills, kind of, or like very small segments. Like you said, Jasmine, Jafar. So they kind of like show, very small clips of all the things that we really like want to see. But it just really looked like, it didn't look like they had a lot, and it didn't look like they really spent a lot of time on this one. And that is then where the ultimate point is proven with the CGI of the Genie. It just didn't look finished to me. And if it is, like, that is kind of horrendous for a Disney remake that has this type of budget and this type of reputation around it. It doesn't look good. I mean, even the trailer, like, his mouth wasn't even synced up with his movements. I don't know. So to me, it was kind of like I think they just kind of released this one too early. And then my other worry with this that it could be is that maybe this movie it won't be as good as what people are saying it is. And maybe it kind of ends up being a little bit of a bust. I don't know. Again, it's really hard to say that from a 58-second trailer. I believe the other one was like about 30 seconds or something. And, obviously it's hard to say that now, but if you're not, willing to give us kind of that much in, in this teaser trailer, it doesn't look like you have a lot done to give us, to show us. It's just a little disappointing to me. And I think a lot of people are saying it's like, well, this is the second teaser trailer that you've put out, and we still haven't seen pretty much anything yet. Right? Again, in this one, we see those, like I said, those 2-second, 3-second stills of really cool stuff, but we haven't heard any of the story really about it. In this scene, we see Jafar saying, fetch me the bottle, I guess. and that's pretty much the only line that we heard in the whole thing. We didn't hear any dialogue from Jasmine or Aladdin, and the Genie only had that one line with Will Smith. So, yeah, I think a lot of people are focusing on the Genie, but I think that's just like one of the reasons as to why this trailer was really disappointing. Um, mhm. Well, yeah, it's true. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting one, right? Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yep. Well, that's what I was just gonna bring up too, and you kind of got there was like the shot for shot, and that's been some people's concern. It's like we're doing live action remakes, and like first of all, that Lion King, it's like what like it's a live action, but there's no people in it, so it's kind of funny how they're calling it a live action, but the whole thing is still gonna be all visual effects. Um, which is kind of kind of a joke in itself anyways, but that's another concern is like people are saying, well, are these all these live action remakes just going to be shot for shot only just redone? And it's like that already has happened. Like you've seen they do like these editions of the animated movies, they sharpen it up a little bit, add some colors to it, and then release it on Blu-ray. um and yeah, so that's been some concern. Of course, with that Lion King trailer that we've seen, it looks almost like shot for shot, right? So yeah, so we'll have to see with the Aladdin. I agree with you. I think they're probably going to follow the same formula. But yeah, I mean, like, wouldn't you have just been fine if they didn't put Will Smith's face on the Genie and just done a full animated Genie? I don't understand why they're doing that. But. Mhm. Yeah, but I mean, it's like his voice is pretty. Is probably good enough to see that that's or sorry to identify that is Will Smith, right? Yeah. Hmm. Well, and to be fair, I mean, Robin Williams is the Genie. You couldn't have got anyone to even come close to that kind of performance. And that's the problem again with these live actions. Like you see Lion King, they're getting like a couple of the voice actors back to play those characters again, which is great. But it's like, like can these new voice actors or just actors, on screen, can they still, at least give kind of life to those performances again? And it's tough, especially with nostalgic, things like Robin Williams' Genie. So, obviously it wouldn't, play to that, but I think it's going to be, I think Will Smith will be fine. It's just how he looks right now is obviously a concern. And it's interesting too because I don't think you were here for the One Let's Talk Cinema episode I actually did where they released the images for Aladdin, and like the first image they released, Will Smith wasn't even blue. Like it was just him, right? Well, yeah, you've seen them though, yeah. So it's like I feel like they're really pandering right now to people, right? I feel like this trailer, maybe I mean maybe they didn't even have these effects finished. Like maybe it could be possible they just did these effects for this trailer. They made him blue and they finished this all up really quickly to get it out to please the fans right now and to show them, you know, you know, the blue genie or whatever, right? And it just turned out to be awful. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you and I talked about it. I mean, Aladdin's not our favorite Disney movie either. So we're not, you know, totally excited for this movie. I definitely still want to see it, though, right? You know, and see how it compares to the original one. And I think they got a good cast. I mean, I'm forgetting who's playing Aladdin. I forgot this the last time I talked about it too. But anyways, yeah. I mean, he's a pretty good cast, and you know what? I think he looked pretty good as Aladdin in the costume and everything that we saw. Jafar looks pretty good too, the way he looks, and Jasmine looked great too. But yeah, so we'll have to see. Obviously, they're going to release another trailer yet for Aladdin. And it's coming in May. So it's already February. So it's like, if my kind of prediction is right, and maybe they kind of half-assed this trailer because they didn't have it all finished, it's like, maybe that is a little worrisome given that it's coming out in May. But I don't know. We'll have to see. And then also the Dumbo, that's coming very soon as well. And that trailer, I think, was released on Wednesday or Tuesday this week or something like that. But I think that was like the second or third trailer for that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of Disney remakes coming out. We got 3, right? Just in the first half of this year. So they're really going all in, especially after Beauty and the Beast. Jungle Book was a big hit. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, so that's kind of our thoughts on the trailer. Overall, doesn't really affect, you know, us going to see the movie or not. Like you said, it is a 58-second trailer after all. You know, I don't know. Like, why do you think people kind of freak out like this over these trailers? It's kind of ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah, I do remember that, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's true. Yep. Well, even just recently, Mortal Engines. I thought that trailer was pretty good, and I think a lot of people kind of liked it. It looked cool, and the movie was a complete flop. So, you know, so that's a good point. Yeah, I just, you know, these Disney remakes have high expectations. So you know, and like I said, I mean, so far they've done pretty well, right? Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book, 2 pretty prominent ones that have done pretty well. And yeah, so we'll have to see. Out of these 3, I don't know. I mean, I think Aladdin is probably the, you know, because Dumbo doesn't have as high expectations because just not as many people know about it and, you know, are kind of anticipating it. So I think Aladdin would be the one most likely to no, I don't want to say fail, but to disappoint, I guess, from what we've seen of all 3 so far. But yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous how kind of overblown things get. But anyways, is what it is. So that's our thoughts on the Aladdin trailer there. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that one, of course. So our next topic is really comes as no surprise. So the Aquaman sequel moving forward with the writer from the first movie, by the way. So that's kind of a key thing that is, you know, really the news of this, because Aquaman getting a sequel is not really much of a news topic. But anyways, so yeah, so this came out, I believe it was yesterday, like yesterday night this came out, that David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, 4 names there, is coming back to write the Aquaman sequel, and then kind of with this news, it was confirmed that they're going forward with the sequel. And so, of course, David Leslie Johnson and Will Beall were the ones who wrote the first one. Of course, James Wan directed the first one. And so here's an article from The Wrap, just quickly. So, frequent James Wan collaborator David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick has been tapped to write the Aquaman sequel. Johnson McGoldrick co-wrote the first Aquaman with Will Beall, based on the story by Jeff Johns, Beall, and James Wan. And it says... and then, of course, it goes on to say Aquaman has grossed $1.12 billion now worldwide. And then, of course, we all know that past Dark Knight Rises, I think it's now the 21st all-time, highest grossing movie ever. And, yeah, so again, not a huge surprise that we're getting a sequel. We do have a little bit more Aquaman news a little bit later in the show, and that's a bit more surprising. But David Leslie Johnson, just for me, he has been a writer on The Walking Dead TV show, and I think he's done about 3 to 4 episodes. All those 3 to 4 episodes have been really, like, some of the best episodes of the series. So I like him a lot, and I didn't even know he was writing the first Aquaman. I realized that, like, when the credits were playing after the movie, and I was like, oh, that's the guy that I love from The Walking Dead. So, anyways, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this one, right? Not much of a surprise. Yeah. And you haven't seen the movie yet, right? Yeah, so, and I don't really know a lot of the comic book stuff, so a bunch of people are speculating now, of course, when this news came out, what it's going to be in the sequel and all that stuff. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of focus on Black Manta. I think that's going to be, maybe the supreme focus. That's one of the things, again, as a non-comic book reader, but that's one of the things that I thought was a little overdone in the first one. But then I guess if the sequel is going to be based around the Black Manta character and his kind of rivalry with Aquaman, then maybe it makes a lot more sense. But yeah, we'll have to see what the sequel entails. And yeah, it'll be interesting. Still, with this news, there has been no confirmation that James Wan is coming back to direct. So that's going to be an interesting one to see if he comes back, which I think he should. I mean, that was kind of the whole talk of the first one, and its success was James Wan. So I hope he does come back, but it is a little bit peculiar to see that that wasn't part of the confirmed news. But yeah, so anyways, to me, it sounds great that the co-writer is back for this one. Sounds like he'll be writing it by himself at this time. So yeah, I think you get James Wan back, definitely on board for the sequel of Aquaman, and like you said, no-brainer. After this, it's like the 21st overall, and I think I saw something. It was the 7th. It's now the 7th comic book movie overall, box office wise. So, yeah, crazy stuff for Aquaman. Of course, overperformed a lot of people's expectations, including both of ours, I think. And yeah, so we'll have to see how this sequel turns out. But of course, fans of the comic books and all that story-wise can probably speculate a little bit more on that one. But like I said, we do have some news about Aquaman a little bit later, so we'll probably discuss a little bit more. So there you go. Those are our thoughts on the Aquaman sequel coming up. Now we get some news about the Kingsman prequel. So this is interesting. You said before, when we were going through the topics here, you said you hadn't even heard of the sequel yet, right? Or the prequel yet. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I did know at 1.2 and I just kind of forgot. And then this announcement came out this week where basically they named, I think, 4 to 5 new cast members for the Kingsman prequel. They already had picked out, I think it was like 3 of them. So that's kind of like the main stars of it. But anyway, so here we go. This article is from Deadline. And so they're going to talk about it. So the shoot on Matthew Vaughn's untitled Kingsman origin story is now underway in the United Kingdom. And the all-star cast includes Harris Dickinson from Trust, Aaron Taylor-Johnson from Kick-Ass, Gemma Arterton from Quantum of Solace, Ralph Fiennes from Schindler's List, Rhys Ifans from The Amazing Spider-Man, Matthew Good from Downtown Abbey, Charles Dance from Game of Thrones, Stanley Tucci from Spotlight, Daniel Bruhl from Rush, Tom Hollander, not Tom Holland, from Bohemian Rhapsody, Robert Arameo from Game of Thrones, and Dijon Hunsao from Blood Diamond. And so that's actually a big name too, Blood Diamond. I haven't seen him in like anything since Blood Diamond. I know he's probably been in lots of stuff, but I haven't heard that name in a while. But anyways, so that's and Deadline says that's quite the lineup. We've had all of the above confirmed by the production, and then of course beforehand, Harris Dickerson and Dickerson and a few other ones were already tapped. So they also give a little bit of a synopsis here. So the anticipated prequel is set to explore the origins of the Kingsman organization in the early 1900s and leading up to World War One, with Dickinson starring as a character whose arc will resemble that of Taron Egerton's Eggsy in the previous films. It will be a reteam for writer-director Vaughn with his kick-ass star Taylor Johnson. So, you see the first two Kingsman movies. We saw the first one together. What do you think about this prequel news? And now that you've heard about it or reminded about it again, what are your thoughts on it, being made? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I don't think so, no, because it says the shooting just began. So yeah, or is underway. But do you want to speak on the third part of it? Like, I know this is technically the third movie, but what do you think about a third part after the second one? Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. Hmm. I'm with you. That's why I asked the question, because I'm thinking, like, I haven't seen the second one, but of course I know kind of how it was received, and it's like, I think this is the best method, or the best way that they could have went at this. I mean, you want to keep the Kingsman franchise alive, given its success, the first movie's success. I think that, like, the second one still did well at the box office, but of course it wasn't, up to par with the first one. Um, and I think this is the perfect way to do it. You come back with a prequel, and if this prequel is good, then great. You get people's interest back in it. Then you maybe go with the third one, and kind of build the reputation up again. You saw this with Transformers with Bumblebee. It's kind of a perfect example of that, right? I mean, you kind of, break it down to the kind of the scaffolding, if you will, and build a different kind of new story, a prequel side story, and then maybe you come back to the franchise once the audience is there again. So I think it's the smartest move that they could have done. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, I mean, people who weren't really interested in the whole concept and, like you said, kind of the IP, if you will, of Kingsman, I don't think they're going to enjoy this one either, because I think it's going to be all the same type of the concept, right? It's going to be the same type of theme. But I think it's going to be different from the number two in that, of course, you're not going to see any of the same cast, I don't think, and it's also going to be a whole different story. So I think it's great. Just quickly comment on the cast. Harris Dickinson from Trust. Watched that one, a limited series last year with Donald Sutherland. He's a really good actor, and he looks a lot younger than he is too. So I think he'll be a perfect. I assume that he's playing like Taron Egerton's kind of role, if you will, in the movie, but obviously not him, himself. But yeah, so I think he's great. A couple other names in there I recognize too. Like I said, from Blood Diamond. I honestly, I've not heard that name since that movie. But he was great in that. So, and then Daniel Bruhl, he was just in The Alienist, a few other things he's been in. He's a really great name too to consider there. And then you got a couple from Game of Thrones. Obviously, people are gonna recognize them. And like you said, Stanley Tucci as well. So yeah, I mean, you get some good cast members like that. You kind of restore, what's good with this. Hopefully, there won't be an Elton John cameo in this one. Yeah. So hopefully, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of kind of hope for this, and I think that, like I said, I think it's the smartest move that they could have done, given that the second one, like, I mean, if the second one wasn't as disappointing as it was, I have no doubt that they just would have done a part 3, right? Like you said, like the chronological order one. But it's like, do we want to keep the franchise alive, right? Matthew Vaughn, I think, he's got a lot more ideas for this franchise, and I think it's smart for him to keep it going. So yeah, and like you said, there's not a lot of spy stuff out there. I mean, there's a lot of kind of like action, somewhat kind of genre movies out there. But yeah, definitely not as many British spy show movies in the U.S. at least. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, so I think we'll both be looking forward to this one then. Yeah, I don't know a release date. Probably 2020, I would think, if they're already into production now. But yeah, we'll have to see. So there you go, Kingsman prequel. Currently in production, and some cast members announced for that one as well. All right, so then let's move on to what is our last? Yeah, no, not our last topic. We got one more after this. So the Aquaman's the Trench spin-off movie in development. So you haven't seen the Aquaman movie, so I guess I'll have to talk about this one, which is pretty sad because I probably don't know enough about the comic books to comment, but I'll try my best. So, but this is kind of big news. So, better bring a life vest. This is from Hollywood Reporter. With Aquaman being a $1 billion hit, it's no surprise that Warner Brothers wants more. They say wants more waterworks from its DC Comics hero. So, more sequels, more movies, right? But while any directions of a direct sequel have not engaged on any sort of serious level, so this obviously came out a couple days before this recent news of the sequel, director James Wan and star Jason Momoa, with all the players seemingly intent on taking a breather and their time away, there is talk of a spin-off. So Warner's has hired newbie scribes Noah Gardner and Aidan Fitzgerald to pen a horror-tinged script centered on the Trench, the deadly and amphibious creatures seen attacking the hero and his love Mara in the Aquaman movie. And that says Wan and Peter Safran will produce the project titled The Trench, which would be much more modestly budgeted than the normal DC superhero tentpole. The Trench creatures are rather recent arrivals to the Aquaman lore, having been introduced in the comics only in 2011 when DC did a revamp of its entire publishing line. They were revealed to be part of the Kingdom of Atlantis, but when it sunk, inhabitants who were cut off from other survivors and evolved into ravenous monsters. So, and that says details of the take are being kept submerged, but it will be set in the Kingdom of the Trench and will not feature the main cast of Aquaman. So that's an important part too. So it sounds like, again, I mean, we talked about this with a sequel. It's not a big surprise that they're going to want more movies with the same IP, right? Connected back to this Aquaman. It's interesting because in the movie, I mean, you know, these creatures are a focus, but it's not like we ever meet a character from them or, you know, they don't have any dialogue. It's just kind of like an obstacle that Aquaman goes through in the movie. And, you know, a 10-minute obstacle. So it's interesting, but they were really fascinating in the movie, and I felt like, you know, I definitely think there's something to explore there. And so if you're going to do a spin-off, I definitely think you could have, you know, done some other spin-offs before this one. But, I mean, obviously it's something that James Wan is interested in. Sounds like he'll be producing this one if it gets through to production. And I think he has some ideas for this one. Again, kind of like Matthew Vaughn, as we talked about with Kingsman. I think he has some ideas that are still, you know, to be seen with Aquaman. So, obviously we know that the sequel is now going through, but now the spin-off is also and we talked about. But yeah, they were such dynamic and interesting creatures in the Aquaman movie, and it's going to be interesting. But again, it's like they don't want to have any of the main cast there, but I feel like the way they're going to sell this is like Aquaman spin-off, right? So it's kind of like they want to be disconnected, but of course for money purposes, they're going to be connected pretty significantly. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a horror type of a theme that they want to go with as well, which is a bit different than Aquaman. So yeah, we'll have to see. Again, I mean, if you read the comics, you know the kind of their storyline a little bit better. Definitely comment on that for sure. But yeah, I just think it sounds pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool characters in Aquaman, definitely standouts. And I think there definitely could be other spin-offs that you would make before this, but maybe James Wan has some up his sleeve here for the Trench, and we'll have to see how it is. But yeah, and I mean, we'll see if it even goes through. I mean, you know, there's no guarantee that this even goes into production in the end, but they're definitely developing it and you know, hired some scriptwriters. So anyways, that's the talk about the Aquaman spinoff, The Trench, that's currently in the works with the DC Extended Universe. Yeah, and the sequel for Aquaman's coming too, so a lot of new stuff coming out with Aquaman. All right, so now is our last topic of today's episode, and that is the trailer. I think this was released yesterday on the YouTube, and so I thought we'd discuss it a little bit. So the Tolkien official trailer was released yesterday, I believe, and so here's a little bit of a description because I didn't know a lot about this movie before I saw this trailer. So Tolkien explores the formative years of the orphaned author. Of course, it's about J.R. Tolkien. I knew that, don't worry. But the orphaned author, as he finds friendship, love, and artistic inspiration among a group of fellow outcasts at school. This takes him into the outbreak of World War I, which threatens to tear the fellowship, they have fellowship in quotations, of course, apart. All of these experiences would inspire Tolkien to write his famous Middle-earth novels. And it says, in theaters May 10th, and the stars are Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins. So good to see that name again. She's in the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie. So what were your thoughts on the trailer after first watch? Oh, okay. Hmm. The the Middle Earth fandom. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you know, like you said, I mean, just to have, to have a, I mean, I don't want to discount J.K. Rowling at all with the Harry Potter stuff because she came out with a lot of stuff. But, compared to J.R.R. Tolkien, who more or less, I mean, he created a universe. I mean, obviously a lot of movies and IPs creating universes, but I mean, he created this whole kind of world and imagination of the world in his mind. And like you said, he spent I think he spent like more time developing language, the maps, the different people in the world and all this stuff. Than he actually did like than actually sitting down and writing the books, right? And I would say the most recent thing that we've seen like that would be Avatar with James Cameron, who spent I think it was like 8 or 9 years developing the story and the he developed that language too that was spoken in that. And yeah, it's like there's so much more than just the book, right, to explore and how how could one even conjure up something like this at that time. And I think that's what the movie's going to explore more or less. We saw a little bit about that in the trailer where it showed like a bunch of battles and stuff like that. So obviously that's the inspiration. It also looks like we're going to see a lot of kind of dream sequences, right? Did you get that from the trailer a little bit? Um, with the yeah, because we saw kind of him as the teenager there in some parts, but then we saw like these big kind of colorful battle scenes with these characters and stuff. So I think it's gonna just the trailer looks very visually pleasing. It looks just really awesome. And I think that's how the movie is going to be, right? Kind of symbolizing his amazing imagination for all things like this. And yeah, and like you said, I don't think a lot of people know a lot about him. And so I think it's going to bring some light, some much deserved light to his life. I will say one thing though about this, and I've seen a lot of people talk about this, in commenting on this trailer especially, is that a lot of people have very high expectations for this film because it's like if you're gonna make a movie that's gonna depict a guy such as J.R.R. Tolkien, who's a legend to so many people, you better get it right. I think that's how a lot of people feel. So, I don't know. There's high expectations to this one. I wasn't blown away by the trailer, but I thought it looked pretty good. And so yeah, so we'll have to see on that front how it pans out with that. And I think again, it's a little bit of a risk, right? You're going out, you're making a movie like this of this guy who has this amazing reputation. So it's important that you get it right. So we'll have to see then how it does in that category. Nicholas Hoult from Warm Bodies movies. I think that's really the only thing I know him from. Um, okay. Okay, yeah. And then Lily Collins, we were just talking about her a couple weeks ago, right? With Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile movie that's coming out. So, and it seems like Nicholas Hoult, I don't think, but he would be playing Tolkien. I think he is, but then in some of the scenes, it looked like a teenager, though. And that's not how Nicholas Hoult looks. So I wonder if they'll kind of maybe have, like, different actors then, I guess, for the younger parts. I don't know. But yeah. So anyways, I thought the trailer looked just physically looked very good. But I'll have to see how the story ends up turning out. It was about a 55-second trailer again, so again, we talked about this with the Aladdin one. It's like, it's only a trailer, but a lot of people are getting excited for this one, which I didn't hear much about, to be honest, until this trailer came out. So looking forward to it. May 10th, it'll be coming out. Ton of movies in May, by the way. Just this summer even, it's insane. But anyways, I'll have to see about this one. It is also a smaller production company too. It's not a big studio. And so I'll have to see kind of, I think it's Fox Spotlight or something like that I saw. So, yeah, maybe it won't have, a big grandiose budget, but it doesn't need that, especially given its material. So, anyways, that is the Tolkien trailer review. If you've seen it, obviously, let us know your thoughts on that one. And obviously, a lot of people going into this one with high expectations. So, all right. So that just about does it then for our news topics. Our film of the week is nothing. We didn't get to see a movie this week. I do really want to see Cold Pursuit, though. Hopefully I'll be seeing that this week. And I know you wanted to see Lego Movie 2, right? I've you've seen the first one, but and a couple other ones. We said before we don't have a lot of interest in the next 3 that are coming out. I still want to take a look at Velvet Buzzsaw on Netflix, so hopefully I'll be able to do that this weekend with Jake Gyllenhaal on that one. I've heard it's a really weird one, so we'll try to get into that one. And yeah, I think that's kind of it for the the forecast of upcoming movies in the next couple of weeks. But anyways, so yeah, we'll see what we can do for next week and see if we can talk about one. All right, so then that brings us to the end of the episode here, where we like to go over our question of the week. This one actually has a bit of context to it this week. Because of the recent news yesterday of the Oscars broadcast, basically they're making some changes. So they're moving the best cinematography, best hair and makeup, best editing, and then best short documentary or something like that. They're moving those 4 categories to commercial breaks, essentially. So they will not be showing those on the Oscars ceremony. But they will be showing the acceptance speeches, or like a highlights kind of segment of all the acceptance speeches together. So this has got a lot of outrage from a lot of people. Again, as we talked about, something kind of seems small, but it's huge on the internet. And this got a lot of outrage from people, especially the cinematography one. So, with this, I thought I would ask this question, which is, if you could change one thing about the format of the Oscars broadcast, what would it be? Because I think a lot of people disagree with this, and I would like to find out, what people think is a better change to the format, because I think we all agree that having an Oscar show 4 hours long is just not an option. That's not a good thing to happen. Already it goes like 3 hours and 20 minutes usually. So, yeah. So if you could change one thing about the format, what would it be about the Oscars? It's tough, but. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. People are talking about doing like a 2 night thing where you put some of the smaller categories on a Saturday night, for example, and maybe do like an online kind of thing where people could watch, and then you have the big show on TV on Sunday where it would be like only 2 hours, and you have like the acting, best picture, director, and all those. But again, all these ideas that I've heard are still, like you said. I mean, those people who are getting the awards, I mean, the people for best sound mixing, right? It's like, yes, maybe the general public wouldn't care as much about that as best director, but to them, that might be, that is their equivalent to a best director, right? Like, that's their profession. That's what they do. And so it's hard to, the whole thing about the Oscars is it's all become about popularity and this ceremony on TV instead of the actual award, part of it, right? And again, like, it's tough to then put yourself in the shoes of these people earning the awards, like you said, having their moment, which is something big. And I mean, just for me, it's like, well, with no host this year, it's going to be interesting actually to see how they do that, because there's not going to be like a monologue and stuff. But like, do you know those little parts in between the awards where they have the host who does the monologue at the beginning? I'm okay with that. But then let's talk about, those 2 to 3 minute little clips that they do where it's usually not very funny at all. And they make some, little commentary between, two people or the host as well. With those little 2 to 3 minute segments in between the awards. And it's like, maybe those could be cut out. I know the presenters a lot. They come out and they take like 2 minutes up before they get to the nominations. It's like, maybe we should just hear the nominations, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember seeing the video. Yep. Hmm. Yeah. They did something similar. They did something similar to that at the Emmys too this year. It's like, I mean, yeah, the audience is supposed to get entertained, but it's like, we want to see the awards, like, and that's why I'm okay with the monologue, because well, this year we'll see what they do, but with the monologue, because it's like the host is always kind of a big deal to people, right? About the Oscars, like everyone talks about, oh, who's the host this year? There is none this year, but anyways, so and it's like, okay, I'm okay with the monologue, but like, why are all these other bits and sections in here? It's like, okay, get one of these stars, come up to the mic, say, we had a great field this year. Instead of making all these jokes about the audience members and, all this stuff, just say, we got a great nomination field this year. Here are the nominees. We get the nominees quick. And they take like a minute clip of all these things. Like for sound mixing or something, they show like a minute of the movie. And it's like, I don't know. Just show, very short, clips of all the nominees. And then here's the winner. And again, you could talk about the acceptance speeches. That's a thing that a lot of people go to first, right? Is saying, well, all these people talk so long, they go over like the music that they play or whatever, and that takes up more time. That's something too. But it's kind of hard to cut off people like that, who, again, like you said, having a moment per se. I mean, some of these people this year, that's going to be their first time winning an Oscar. And, obviously that's something that they want to have, and they want to make a speech and whatever. But for me, it would just be all those little things that they just really do not need. And they just keep doing them every year. And I think if you're looking to cut stuff, that's what you cut. You don't cut a category like best cinematography or best film editing, You know, like, to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Again, it all goes back to the same overarching theme to me of what can we do? They're focusing on entertainment and popularity more so than the actual awards themselves, which is unfortunate. And I don't know. That's kind of the trend they're going with going forward. And I mean, you could say this exact same thing for the Emmys too. It's not just the Oscars. So, anyways, a lot of people are making a big deal out of that. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I think, you know, if you're looking to cut some stuff, that would be what you cut. But anyways, end of the day, neither of us are in control, and the majority of the internet who's talking about this has no say in this. So yeah, we'll have to see how it ends up. But also gonna be interesting without a host this year. We'll have to see how that stuff plays into it. Of course, we've heard that the Avengers cast is making an appearance, right? And a couple other stars are making like kind of making bits appearances on there. So anyways, we'll have to see. Oscars are now the 24th, so about 12 days away, less than 2 weeks. Excuse me. So obviously we'll be watching, and we'll talk about those when they come. But anyways, guys, that'll just do it then for Let's Talk Cinema, episode 10 here. Thank you, Greg, for coming along with me again. Yep, and yeah, so yeah, thank you guys for so much watching this one. Love to hear your thoughts on all the stuff we talked about today. I really would appreciate it, and appreciate your support also on the last few episodes. Really, great views, likes, and comments, all that stuff. Really awesome. So again, yeah, thank you guys for watching. We should be back next week. I know it's Tuesday again, but just seems to work better for us lately. But anyways, hopefully we'll be back Monday or Tuesday next week for another episode. So anyways, guys, we'll see you then next weekend. Take care.